Hey, welcome everybody to the Bats Bets preview for Week 3 in the NFL. Coming off 2 good weeks for us, up good money, and I've been pretty happy with the results so far. So if you're interested and you want to head on over to batsbets.com and check out what we have. Our package is already paid for itself for this first month, and we plan on keeping going. So that being said, want to move on to that first game that we have on the docket, the Thursday night matchup between the New England Patriots and the New York Jets. To me, this is a game, who's a pretender, who's a contender. Both teams are 1-1. Both teams really need a win to vault themselves and keep themselves in that playoff picture, so to speak. And it'll be a demoralizing loss for somebody out of this. I will say this: Patriots have surprised so far. I fully expected them to be 0-2 right now, coming off playing two solid opponents in Seattle and in the Cincinnati Bengals, and they pulled out a W over Cincinnati. So I give them credit for that. The Jets, on the other hand, 1-1, coming off a nice victory. Aaron Rodgers starting to look a little better. Not great, not back to obviously MVP form. But what's been surprising is the Jets defense still hasn't rounded into shape. And now with another injury on the defensive line, the Hassan Reddick watch continues. When are they going to be smart? Bring the guy in, pay him the money, get a pass rush, get an edge rusher, move on. That's the real question for the Jets. Otherwise, they're going to continue to struggle on defense. And no matter what Robert Saleh thinks, they're just going to struggle without that personnel. Quentin Williams and Sauce Gardner can't do it by themselves. And CJ Mobley, it seems like he's been nicked up every week. So, with that being said, how are you looking at this game, and what does the code have to? Well, we aren't going to tell people what the code has to say. We're going to invite them over to batsbets.com, but may give them a lead. So, what are you thinking about the game?
I'm kind of with you. You've seen a little bit of Patriots money come in, open right around the 6.5. Currently looking, it's right around 6. Um, so a little bit of that underdog. Again, it's have we seen enough from the New York Jets to be able to lay a touchdown? I think is the real talking point with them so far. Um, as far as us, I mean, we personally don't have any plays on this. We do have one lean, and that would have been on kind of the Patriots, the number again. That more so just has to do with the Jets. Are they playing good enough football right now to lay a touchdown with against a divisional opponent? Um, I mean, and I'm kind of with you with the Hassan Reddick thing. I don't think he's going to show up. I don't think even if they pay him, I don't think he's going to show up. I think he's going to continue his holdout if he's gone this far. I don't necessarily see it ending, and especially how that whole thing has been treated from both his camp and the New York Jets. I don't know if that's reconcilable, um, but they're going to have to figure out something because and you mentioned it a little bit, the Jets struggles, especially against the run. Well, the New England Patriots through 2 weeks have told you exactly what they're going to do. They're going to
Yep.
run the ball. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're not going to put a ton on Jacoby Brissett's plate. And if the New York Jets can't stop the run in this game, which they haven't necessarily been able to show that they can do that thus far, um, again, it's they're going to control the clock. Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the sideline, um, and we'll kind of goes from there. Um, I expect, which is surprising going in, but credit to the New England offensive line. I think they've been pretty good thus far, especially creating holes in the running game, and we'll see if they can do it against the Jets.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta agree with you. I think New England is just gonna run, 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 and I don't blame them. I would attack this Jets defense very similarly, um, being if I had New England's team. So that being said, there will be no play, but like was mentioned, we've got the lean, and when you're going to have that few points being put on the board potentially, you always like to take points on that one, um, and make a team cover. So with that, on to our next game that we have on the docket, 10 o'clock Sunday morning game for us out here on the West Coast. The Green Bay Packers versus the Tennessee Titans. Green Bay is at Tennessee. Green Bay continues to get disturbing news from the IR as I see they put their rookie running back, Marshawn Lloyd, now on IR. That will hurt the running game a little bit, but as we saw in the game before, Josh Jacobs is more than capable of toting the rock another 30 times. And I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay runs the ball a lot. On the flip side, you've got the Tennessee Titans, where if I had Will Levis as my quarterback, I would run the ball. I would run the ball a lot, would try and do exactly what Philadelphia did and what Indianapolis attempted to do and run on that Packer defense as much as possible. Uh, Another game, Packers are 1-1. If they could pull off 2 wins without their starting back, Jordan Love, in the lineup, that would be a real feather in their cap as far as making the playoffs this year. The Titans 0-2. Will Levis directly attributed to both losses, and if he has similar type game this week, they're going to lose again. Uh, I would like to say the young man will learn from his mistakes, but I don't see it so far. So, what do you have to say about this game?
So I alluded to it yesterday when we recorded our week 2 recaps. The Packers beat reporter Rob Demboski went on and basically said Jordan Love almost played. It was not a facade. He was really close to playing last week. We do have a bet on this game. It has moved a lot in our favor. Um, and by saying that, people watching can put two and two together what side we're on this play. Um, Jordan Love's going to play. I will be surprised if he doesn't. He practiced today. He has been practicing behind the scenes for about the last week and a half. Like I said, he almost played last week. The line supports that as it has moved about 2 full points in that direction. And for us, we try to beat that line movement again. I alluded to it when we recorded our recap, so hopefully all you guys that took a look at that were able to get on that and were able to beat some of this movement. Um, if the Packers do go Malik Willis, it wouldn't. I shouldn't say it wouldn't shock me because Green Bay has done this a little bit in the past, specifically with like Jair Alexander, where he's been hurt and he's practiced and then ended up not playing. Um, and with it being Tennessee, and I believe they've got Minnesota on deck in their first divisional
Mhm.
game, if they would hold out Jordan Love, I could see it. Should be told, I'm just going to say it. I still like the Packers in this game. I think the talent discrepancy between these two teams is fairly large. Um, but I expect Jordan to play.
Yep. Well, that would be a real boost in the arm for the Packers if he could. It definitely gives LaFleur the entire playbook to draw from. And I think, and I agree with you, the talent between the two teams definitely favors the Packers. Coaching, the organization, all leans Green Bay. This should be a Packer win if Jordan Love plays.
Yep.
So that being said, we'll move on to the next game, another 10 o'clock game where we have the Los Angeles Chargers heading back east again, this time to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams 2-0. Both teams, you could say, kind of surprising 2-0. Um, one of these surprising teams is going to be 3-0. The Chargers come in a little dinged up. I still hear that Herbert is a little dinged up, but should play. Um, and any mobility issues for your quarterback, the Steelers can definitely take advantage of. I have not been a believer in the Steelers as of yet. I still think that they have a ways to go, especially offensively, but defensively they're proving to be an elite team. Can the Chargers put points on the board against them? We'll have to see. They've relied on that run game a little bit so far this year. Uh, the Chargers have. And the Steelers, you know what they're going to do. They're going to ground and pound, and they're not going to put a lot on Fields' plate. It sounds like Fields is going to start again for the Steelers. So it should be an interesting game. Um, Having to travel to the East Coast back-to-back weeks, I don't think helps the Chargers much at all. So it'll be interesting. But what are you thinking about the game, and what does the code have to say? Well, or
So
Uh,
we have two different plays in this game. One two unit and one single unit play. Um, you've seen a little bit of line movement so far. Opened right around Steelers -2. It's been bet down with sharp money down to 1.5 already. So you've seen some Charger money come in. Total hasn't really moved at all. It's kind of stuck on that 35.5 number. So the sports books are expecting a little bit lower scoring game. And I'm kind of with you. I also think Herbert probably plays. I know the MRI came back negative. Um, I mean, it is with the Chargers' early success. If they'd hold him out of a game, it, maybe I don't necessarily think they will. Um, but I guess we'll just have to wait till closer to kickoff with that one. But and I'm done being surprised by the Pittsburgh Steelers winning football games. Like Mike Tomlin, he does it every year. I mean, when you've coached in the NFL for 20 years and you don't have a losing season, there's a reason for that. I don't think
yep.
it's no, it hasn't quite been 20 years. I don't think.
Hasn't quite been 20, but he is one of the
But
longest tenured coaches in the
yeah,
NFL.
and when you don't have losing seasons, I don't care who he has. I mean, the defense is the same. They're going to get after the quarterback with their outside linebackers and their front seven. They force turnovers on the back end, and they try to control the clock and run the ball. And TJ Watt is probably the biggest game wrecker, I'll say, in the NFL right now. I mean,
Yep.
when he's and I don't get why more DNs don't do it and go after the football on every single sack, but
Yeah.
he probably forces feels like over a fumble a game just on strip sacks. Now they may not always recover those fumbles, but it feels like he's getting the ball on the ground all the time. Um, and Pittsburgh is a big one because they're in a big division. I mean, that division is so loaded that the more wins they can stack, the better because especially out of their division games to be able to sneak into the playoffs.
And especially early with their schedule on the back end is just tough. I mean, that's the only way to put it. They have it's going to be a grind every game once they get around week 9, 10 for them. So that being said, to rack up these early victories for Pittsburgh is of paramount importance. And I just like this Charger team. The more I watch, the more I see of them, the more I read about them, the better I like them. So, and
Yeah.
two potential playoff teams, and I wasn't saying that about Pittsburgh 3 weeks ago. But when you sit atop the division, and you got to give credit where credit's due. They're a game up on everybody and two games up on Cincinnati already, and covering ground and making up ground in the NFL is not an easy thing to do. So,
Yeah.
congratulations to Mike Tomlin that
I
way.
mean, the biggest thing with the Chargers, I would say, is unlike a lot of teams, they have an identity. They know who they are. And I think you get that with a Jim Harbaugh team. They're going to come in. Herbert doesn't have to do everything, hurt or not. But the fact that he doesn't means that because he is a little dinged up, it isn't quite as big of a factor because he doesn't need to throw for 350 yards and a couple touchdowns. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's definitely a benefit. But like I said, I mean, we've got multiple different bets on this game. So make sure you head over to betsbets.com, check out the packages, check out the NFL package specifically, which is already paid for itself through week one, um, and go from there. But
Yep. No, agreed. Definitely agreed. The next game on our docket is another pair of teams that are both undefeated, the Houston Texans and the Minnesota Vikings. Two teams you expected this from the Texans. CJ Stroud playing well, not playing awesome, but playing well enough to win. I think I expected a little more out of him at this moment in time, with adding a Stephon Diggs to the arsenal as well as a Joe Mixon in the backfield. I really thought they would be eh, doing a little better offensively. Not that they're playing bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. I just expected elite, I guess, out of them. I haven't quite seen that. Minnesota Vikings, on the other hand, with Sam Darnold, who probably is my number two vote for MVP so far this season, has done a lot for the Minnesota Vikings. Sam's problem is he's got a lot of weapons hurt now. They've had a lot of players go down. and it will be interesting. Can they put up enough points to hang with the Houston Texans and to win the ball game? One of these teams is not going to be undefeated at the end of this one. But what are you thinking about this one? And do we have a play?
Well, one, Sam Darnold would have to stop turning the ball up, putting the ball on the ground, and have that turnover. So I wouldn't necessarily say he's still top two. I think Derek Carr and it doesn't matter. Anyway, so I mean, with this one, I like Minnesota. Um, as just as a team in general, I think their defenses look good. Um, we'll see with how their offense looks. Just looking at it, Justin Jefferson, I know he wasn't worried about the quad in general. Um, and George, I know he did do like a walkthrough for like today's practice or yesterday's practice. One of the two, I know I saw that. So it wouldn't surprise me if he would give it a play. We don't have anything on this game in particular, just kind of a slight lean with the Vikings at home. But again, not nearly enough variance for us to actually have a bet on it. So we'll kind of this will be just one. I'm interested to watch this game, mainly to see about Minnesota. Are they can they play, or are they just? I mean, I don't want to say like because they did beat San Francisco, but
Yeah.
they beat San Francisco when I think that was as much the Niners not necessarily showing up as it was on the Vikings. But I mean, they obviously had a hand in that as well, so credit to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, one of these teams is going to drop from the undefeated list. It'll be interesting. I really want to see Houston take that next step, put their foot on the gas, and really put some points on the board. I think they're more than capable. We'll see what happens. Um, but for the next game on our docket, we have the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New Orleans Saints. Saints come in 2-0, surprising some folks. Big win at Dallas last week, and now you got the Eagles that are coming off a loss to the Atlanta Falcons on Monday night and can't be too happy about it. There've got to be some real questions going on in Philadelphia. I mean, beginning with the quarterback, well, beginning with their coach, and then moving on and coaching staff, and moving on to Jalen Hurts at quarterback. He's working with his third OC in 3 years. While he is playing well enough to win, it's just not at that MVP level that he had a couple years ago. Um, and you've also got a Philadelphia defense who in back-to-back games has given up more than 20 points. So this is not the dominating Philadelphia defense that I expected. On the flip side, you've got the Saints who, yeah, we've mentioned MVP candidates. Derek Carr would be my MVP at this moment in time. He's done a magnificent job with the Saints. The Saints have found, Alvin Kamara looks like he's got a drink from the fountain of youth and is playing great football right now. I think the league is still trying to figure out just what angle and just what plays the new OC Kubiak for the New Orleans Saints is going to call. And the Saints defense has been opportunistic and played just well enough. Can they continue that at home against the Eagles? That's the real question. We're going to find out the answer right now. What are you thinking about that game?
I mean, I would agree. The Saints are definitely my surprise team so far this season. I did not expect them to be anywhere remotely close to looking this good. In fact, I thought they'd be one of the worst teams in the NFL, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And they have not been, and a lot of that is credit to Derek Carr. Um, with this one, you really haven't seen much movement on either side, spread or total. It's kind of stayed Saints 2.5 and right around 49.5 for the total on that game. So you're not seeing a lot of sharp action moving the line one way or another, at least early in the week when we're recording this. I mean, that could all change, obviously. And as it gets close to Sunday, it probably will a little bit, and you'll see some movement. Um, we don't really have anything on this game apart from one lean. I guess it kind of leaned towards the over, but that's just mainly because these are two offenses that I think put up some points. Um, and I'm with you until that Philadelphia, especially their defensive line, until they start playing better. I think they could be in for some trouble. because I know a lot of people talked about losing Kelsey on at center, not nearly as much about Fletcher Cox, and that's proving to
Yeah.
be a massive loss because to this point, when Carter actually hustles a little bit, he's looked all right, and Jordan Davis hasn't had nearly the impact that I thought he would have coming into his NFL career, and then especially going into this year. They continue to get run all over. They continue to get pushed around, and
Yeah.
that's been surprising.
Yep. That's been a big surprise to me. They have been very disappointing. Definitely not the best two interior linemen like I thought they were to start the season. And it's hurt. It's hurt Philadelphia quite a bit. And unless and until they find it, Philadelphia is going to continue to get run all over. So that being said, just the one lean on the game, but nothing else. But still head over to batsbets.com, check out that NFL package, and just know that we've already had this first month pay for itself already in week one and moving forward. So, you got
Yeah,
a great opportunity.
make sure your mic doesn't rub on your collar. It's rubbing on the collar there and creating noise.
Right now.
It's when you're moving. It was just rubbing and creating a rubbing noise because that's the mic. Anyway, keep going.
All right. Well, I'll sit still. But moving on to the next game that we've got on the docket, another 10 o'clock game. The Denver Broncos head east to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, another 2-0 team. And Baker Mayfield, really, he is the third candidate in that MVP talk, at least early season. And I've got to give the Buccaneers a lot of credit. They have really done a nice job so far this year. They are playing better than what I expected. I've had to boost them a little bit in my own power ratings. And on the flip side, you've had the Denver Broncos, who they are who I thought they were. Not a very good team, an okay organization with an overrated coach, and you've got a quarterback who's not ready for prime time, and that can all lead to disaster. I expect the Buccaneers to get to 3-0. But that's just my own personal opinion. What do you got to say about this? And where do you think we're headed with this one?
So there's another one where there's really not been any movement on spread or total. Staying right around Tampa Bay 6.5. I'm not sure if it'll hit 7, because I think if it does hit 7, you'll probably see some buyback. Um, just getting a touchdown versus a 6.5 number, just purely based off of the math with that. And the totals pretty much stayed right around 39.5. This is another
Yep.
game. I mean, we pretty much made this spot on with what the books had, so we don't have any plays in this one. It's just another one of those games. Like, interested to see if Tampa Bay can continue to play well. Especially like I think it's time or about time that the Buccaneer wide receiver core gets more national attention. Of
Yeah.
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I mean, they've been studs in the league, putting up huge numbers for years. And I feel like they never get that recognition as one of the top duos, even though I think they're right up there. And I think Baker Mayfield, like you said, I think he looks comfortable. I think he looks really good in the pocket. I think he feels good in the offense. And now he gets to take on a Denver team um, who's they got to go play down in Florida, and especially once you start to get into this right before the winter time, Florida just becomes a tougher. It's just so humid that
Yep.
it's just a completely different environment to play in. So curious to see how that goes. Um, but yeah, I mean, at some point, I'm with you. I thought Bo Nix was all right. He hasn't quite shown that yet this year.
Yeah, Bo Nix, I just think he's another quarterback. He's another young quarterback that would have really benefited sitting behind a veteran talent, watching, learning, and then being put out there. I just think he's being done a disservice by being thrown to the wolves and saying, "Well, I'm an offensive genius. We'll just figure this out." And the NFL, sorry, uh, doesn't work that way on the elite level, and Denver's going to continue to go through growing pains unless and until something happens there. So that being said, we'll move on to our next game. Another 10 o'clock game, the New York Giants versus the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland on the shores of Lake Erie. And I am telling you this right now, the Giants, just from the top down, don't look like a great organization whatsoever. Even though Deshaun Watson is still under center for the Cleveland Browns, I think the Browns are the much superior team in this game. And I see the Browns moving to 2-1 and continuing their march to the playoffs. I see the New York Giants struggling to compete, struggling to score, compete against anybody that isn't on their level. And that's only a handful of teams in the NFL. Cleveland's not one of them. That but once again, that's just my opinion. What does Code have to say, and what are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is just another game. We don't really have anything one way or another. Just looking at the movements here. No, yeah, I mean, nothing really in spread or total. So you're not seeing any real sharp money on this game real early in the week either. Um, I mean, it's just tough because like if you're not gonna get great quarterback play, you're just in this league, you're just out of like out of luck. I mean, and yeah, I mean, there's not much really else to say about that. If you don't have the most important position on the field, you're in trouble. So this is we don't have any plays in this one, and like I said, no real sharp line movements at least early. We'll kind of monitor it and see where it goes as Sunday approaches.
Yeah. Well, once again, no play, and I invite you over to batsbets.com to check us out. Check out that website and the packages, not only the NFL package, but we've got college football, soccer going on right now. A lot of plays going on in soccer for $50. That's quite a deal. So, well, moving on, our next game that we want to talk about is the Chicago Bears traveling to the Indianapolis Colts. I talked about young quarterbacks before with Bo Nix, and I just think Caleb Williams is in a similar boat. The Chicago organization expects Caleb to be the savior. And the bottom line is he is just being put in a position to fail, even though he has a lot of offensive skill position talent. His offensive line, as proven last week, is just horrendous. And the poor young man, you either give him the ability to change up the play or to change how they are going to block against different blitz schemes that he can see coming. He's got to be able, he's just a sitting duck at different times. And Caleb's always liked to hold on to the ball a little bit anyway. That just does not bode well for him. On the other side, you've got Richardson, young man who, I just don't know if he's got a cannon for an arm, but you don't know if that cannon's pointing at you or away from you. He turns the ball over way too much and is just another young man that could use some time sitting behind quality veteran leadership and learning. I thought maybe when he was injured last year, he could learn a little bit from Gardner Minshew. Obviously, that wasn't the case. He's continued to make these mistakes game in and game out that are costing his teams W. So, I really hate to say it, but whoever commits the fewest turnovers in this game is probably going to end up winning the game. But once again, that's just my thought. What do you have to say on this one? And what do you think the code's going to come in at?
Um, so we don't have a bet on this game. I would lean Bears, and the biggest reason for that is the Colts have one of, if not the worst rush defense, especially with their front. You saw it a lot with the Packers last week. Um, I definitely think if I'm the Bears, this is a heavy dose of Swift. Um, and I think they can, if they can do that, they can control the clock, they can move the ball. Um, we'll see if I haven't seen anything about Keenan yet, um, if he's going to give it a go or not. But we do have a slight lean, no play, like I mentioned. Just looking at where the line is moved, you've seen some Bears money come in early, moving from about 1.5, 2 down to about one, as well as a little bit of over money. The line is ticked up. I mean, in this one, I've never been big on on Richardson. I wasn't big on him at Florida. Wasn't big on him last year before he got hurt. Not big on him now. I have not seen anything to change my opinion on him necessarily that he can win big games in the NFL. Um, so I think that's an advantage. Chicago at quarterback, I would take Caleb over Anthony Richardson, even with the portal lines. Um, and I just think the Bears have the better defense in this one. So if you give me the better quarterback and the better defense, I think the Bears are in a decent spot to get this road win. But like I said, we don't have a play on it, but uh, slight lean with the Bears.
Okay. Well, I'd have to agree with you, and I still think it's going to come down to which quarterback turns the ball over the least, because
Yeah,
both are capable of putting the ball on the ground or throwing it to the other team 2 to 4 times in a ball game, and that's just not winning football in the NFL or pretty much at any level.
yeah. But I
So
would trust the Bears rush defense against Jonathan Taylor more than I trust the Colts rush defense against Swift.
yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's just that it's tough to handicap turnovers, and I just think that this is what this ball game is going to come down to. So that being said, moving on to games that start a little later in the day, we've got the Carolina Panthers heading out west, uh, coming into town for us here and playing the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm here to tell you they couldn't hit the Raiders at a better time. If the Raiders can catapult themselves to 2-1, it would be a tremendous shot in the arm. These are two teams who I did not have a lot of respect for coming out of the preseason. Rightfully so with the Panthers, and the Raiders, quite honestly, had one of the surprises of the week, traveling to the East Coast and beating the Baltimore Ravens. I like the Raiders in this game. I think Carolina is in a free fall. I just think their organization is not good. Their head coach seems to be in a little bit in over his head, and I think he had a decision made for him in replacing Bryce Young. I still think it was the right decision, but a decision nonetheless, going with now Andy Dalton, and hopefully Bryce can not have this shake his confidence too much. Although when you watched him play, he wasn't a confident kid when he was playing, so hopefully he can find some of that and return to an NFL level quarterback. And as far as the Raiders are concerned, they've just got to get themselves right, get healthy, have a feel good game in which you beat a team the way you should, and you move on and get the W. That's kind of how I see it. What are we thinking on this game? What do you like?
Well, for the third straight week, you've seen early money come in on the Panthers, plus the points. Um, I think that has to do more with an overreaction with the Raiders beating the Ravens and just that adjustment. I completely disagree with you. I think it's completely the wrong move to go off of Bryce Young, mainly because it's done. You wasted that pick. I don't see him ever playing quarterback for the Panthers again. Mainly because when you make this move, I think this was the coach trying to save his own ass. Pardon my French, job. um, and had absolutely nothing. I think that's what it was. I mean, he wasn't playing good by any stretch. Um, I don't expect anything better from Andy Dalton because Andy Dalton is thrown to the same weapons behind the same offensive line and the same running game that Bryce Young was. And I don't I don't necessarily think Carolina, I just think they've got no talent. Um, if I had to bet this game, we don't have a bet on the spread. We do have actually a multiple unit bet on the total. So make sure you head over to batsbets.com for that. It is moving already, so you may want to do that sooner rather than later. And we'll make sure all the bets for the entire NFL weekend are out by the end of the day today. Um, College football and all that's already sent out for our weekend there. But if I had to bet the spread, call me an analytical sharp. Give me the Panthers plus the 5, mainly because I don't know if the Raiders are going to blow anybody out, but that yeah, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole with my money. So nothing there. But like I said, we do have the 2 unit bet on the total in this game.
Right. Well, You heard it here that we got the 2-unit bet. Head on over to batsbets.com. Check out that NFL package. I also heard it that we've already got our college football package out for the weekend. So, you can grab both. And like I said, having quite a few soccer bets because we cover soccer from around the world. Uh, Having quite a few soccer bets that we put out each week. That $150 everything package certainly is a deal. You'll be easily able to cover that within a weekend, if not two. So that being said, we are going to move on to the Dolphins versus the Seahawks. First look at the Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa, and they have to make actually the longest continental United States continental trip that the NFL can possibly have, going from Miami to Seattle. Not going to help them at all there. Seattle 2-0, the 12th man will be fired up, looking to get the 3-0. I personally think, even with Tua out, the Dolphins have more team talent than the Seahawks, but and that talent overcome, having the lesser of the two quarterbacks, all that travel, and a hostile environment? That's the big question. And is Kenneth Walker going to play? That's question number two. So that being said, I'll hand it over to you. What are we thinking? What does the code think on this one?
So it's tough with Tua going down. I mean, obviously, if you watched our recap, that cost us a 3-unit bet last week with the over. That was nothing's ever guaranteed, but it looked really good.
Yeah,
So that one still stings a bit. But as far as this one for us, um, this I'm gonna stay away. Our code does have some some plays that it likes, but without Tua, it's just not worth anything for, in my opinion, this week to bet on it. This game, this is completely a stay away, watch, and then make an adjustment type of game for me. Um, Seattle at 4. They're looking at -4 right now, 41.5 at the total. You've seen some money come in early on the Dolphins, coming down from 5 down to 4. Total hasn't really moved, which I guess I would tend to agree with that line movement. I think if Tua was playing, we would have been on the Dolphins here. But like I said, with a backup quarterback like this, it's just not worth the uncertainty. And from what we've seen and just looking at different things in the past, going from Tua down to I believe Thompson, I think is his name, Skylar Thompson.
Skylar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't have a great grasp of how many points that is worth. At least not yet. So kind of this will be a game I'm gonna watch and quote unquote take notes of, but not gonna put any cash on it.
Yep. No, smart. Very smart. If when faced with that uncertainty, we don't flip coins around here. Try and bet on what the code gives us and what the variance is with what the sports books put out against our code. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. When you have such an unknown, and I want to say like the Green Bay Packers had that last week. You thought you knew how the young man backing up Jordan Love was going to do and how he was going to play, but we didn't just know for sure. Same thing holds true here. Plus, you're on the road. You don't have the benefit of a home crowd situation. You are on the road, and we just gotta bet on that sure thing. So that being said, we will move on to a game where I know one sure thing. Both these teams should be really angry going into this game. And it is the game where the Baltimore Ravens are traveling to play the Dallas Cowboys. Both these teams got upset last week. Both were kind of embarrassed in different ways. The comeback against the Ravens on their home field, the Cowboys just getting blown out on their home field. Uh, this is a pride game. We're going to find out a lot about the organization, the amount of faith, the amount of will that each one of these teams have. And the Ravens, they start out 0-3. This was a team I thought could win the AFC North, and they may be out of the playoff hunt after this game. You've got the Dallas Cowboys, who perennially think they're a Super Bowl contender, and you start out 1-2, that ain't gonna look good. So that being said, I'll be honest with you. I kind of like the Ravens. I just don't see a John Harbaugh team starting out 0-3. But we'll find out. With that, what are you thinking about this game, and what does the code have to say?
So I wish the Ravens had more of, and we brought this up with the Chargers. They don't have an identity. They went from week one, a lot of Lamar running. There were too many penalties in that game, so Derrick Henry was never really a factor for him. To week two, Lamar only ran a handful of times. To week three, now having to block Micah Parsons. I mean, it just I don't know what to make of this Baltimore team. I mean, Justin Tucker doesn't look and hasn't like his streak from 50 plus or being the greatest kicker of all time is poor. Like, um, they don't know what to do with Mark Andrews. I mean, Isaiah Likely has pretty much taken that tight end one spot. Um, I don't know. Something's just not right with this Ravens team. And then the Cowboys, I think it comes down to you got to stop trying to run the ball. I mean, I'm sorry, and I understand teams want to be balanced. You're getting nothing out of Zeke really on the ground in yards per carry. You're when they realize that they're gonna have to throw the ball 45 times to win, just let Dak sling it. I mean, CD Lamb only I think he had what 4 catches if I
Yeah,
remember
he
right
didn't
last
have that
week.
many.
Like he's got to get you got to figure out ways to get the football in CD's hands. Um, for us, we have a lean with this one. We lean Cowboys at home, they're getting a point and a half. That's gone against where the early line movement has gone. Um, as it opened, what do we open? One, I think. Yeah, open one, bet to 1.5. It's also been bet down by a full point on the total. We don't have anything there. We basically made it 49. Um, so not like that's right spot on with where the books have the line. So nothing as far as that goes. No official plays, not yet, unless it would continue to move more with the spread in our favor, and that's just something we'll have to keep an eye out for um, to see if that makes the card come Sunday or not. But I'd
Yeah.
expect Dallas money to come back. There's no way this is going to get anywhere close to 3. The most that the Ravens would ever touch here on the road would be 2.5, if it even hits that. So
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it hitting that, but once again, this is just a ball game where we're going to find out a lot about these two teams and where they're going and what they're going to have for a season and put together for a season. Uh, Next game that we've got on the docket is the Detroit Lions versus the Arizona Cardinals. And this to me is another game in which we're going to find out a lot about the team that wins. You've got the Arizona Cardinals, who are coming off getting their first victory of the year and just beating up on a depleted LA Rams team, and a Cardinal team that responded very well coming out of Buffalo and really accounting well for themselves, but not getting the victory. And on the flip side, you got a Detroit Lions team that just did not look good at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And taking nothing away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but when you're asking Jared Goff to win a ball game for you, I just don't think he's that type of quarterback. I don't think he ever will be. Uh, but I think there's more than enough talent there on that Detroit team that you don't have to have Jared Goff win the ball game for you. That being said, I like the Lions, but what are we thinking about that game, and what does the code have to say?
so we have a bet on this one. So make sure you go check out batsbets.com for that. Uh, I mean, it's tough. The Cardinals have been one of the more surprising teams to me so far this year. I agree with you. I think Detroit, with Goff throwing the ball 55 times, is not how you're going to win games, and I don't expect that to happen again. regardless of how many points the Arizona Cardinals may put up. One of the worries I would have if I'm a Lions fan is suspect secondary, and Arizona is definitely a team that could potentially take advantage of that. Um, I mean, also Kyler Murray's just such a unique quarterback to take on and go against because he's just running all over the place. So, like, one, you have to spy him, but half the time when he's running, he's not really running to try to gain yards, if that makes sense. He's just running around in figure eights in the backfield, avoiding defenders until somebody gets open. And this past week, he finally decided that it was his job to find Marvin Harrison, um, which might be one of the more idiotic statements I've ever heard a quarterback make. That
Yeah.
it's not his job to throw to a wide receiver. Like, well, come on. But like I said, we do have a bet on this game. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check that out as well as the rest of our card. But this is one I'm very interested to watch this game because you'll see are the Cardinals legit? Can
Yep.
they beat a true contender, or did they just beat up on a depleted Rams team? Which what they beat them by like 41 to like
Oh,
10. I think
yeah,
it
it
was
was
ugly.
not, it was ugly, not
Yeah, 41
close.
10.
And yeah, no, and once again, I agree. We've got Kyler Murray, who's arguably a top five MVP early season candidate, and we'll
Yeah,
see
Call of
which
Duty
team's for
hasn't come
real.
out yet.
Uh, as was said by one pundit today, bringing that up about Kyler Murray's low hanging fruit. Well, low hanging fruit still tastes as good, and it is still the truth. So Kyler Murray's got to do his best to dispel that problem. That being said, check out batsbets.com for that bet, along with everything else that we offer there. And we will move on to the Chiefs versus the Falcons in Atlanta Sunday night. This to me, every once in a while when you're the champ, you're going to face a team who wants to prove something. And in the first 2 weeks, you had against the Chiefs, you had the Ravens who wanted to prove that they could win and beat the Chiefs. Didn't happen. Then you've got Cincinnati, who's been the team to beat the Chiefs. That didn't happen. All referee calls aside. Now you've got an Atlanta Falcon team who, not unlike Detroit last year to open up the season, or the Green Bay Packers in the middle of the season, wanting to prove themselves against the champ. I think that's what you're going to see here when the Falcons play the Chiefs in this game. And in my humble opinion, don't be surprised if Kirk Cousins leads another upset here and the Falcons beat the Chiefs. That's just kind of a hunch on that one on my end. But what does the code have to say, and what are you thinking about this game?
So we have a lean on the spread, no bet. Um, I disagree. I think this is ugly. I think Kansas City handles them. Um, I mean, I do think the loss of Pacheco will hurt Kansas City, and them being balanced. But at the same time, that just means Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball more. So pick your poison. Um, like I said, this is a lean right now. If this game hits three, I will take it. From right now, it's sitting at 3.5. Not gonna pay for the hook. Um, what did we 40? So like money looks like money's come in on the over. It's already moved a couple points up with that one. I was not impressed necessarily with Atlanta against Philly. They won that game because of a blunder by the Eagles, and not just the blunder, but then Saquon dropped it, so it was
Yeah.
multiple blunders, or they lose that. I don't love the fact that they have to. It's a short week for them, even though they are at home. It's just one less day of preparation for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and I that's not a great place to be. Also, this is coming off of Patrick Mahomes' worst game, arguably, as a starting quarterback. Um, and yeah, I don't. I think we see MVP Mahomes this weekend. But primetime game, um, you get primetime Kirk Cousins. Good
Yep.
luck.
Yeah, speaks for itself. Hey, primetime Kirk Cousins looked real good on that last drive against Philly. So once again, I think it'll be a fun game to watch. Head on over to batspeds.com. Uh, Check out that NFL package. You'll get all our plays. And also take a look at college football and soccer. There's a lot of value for the amount of picks we give out in those sports for just a mere $50 a piece. And 150 for the everything package gets you well over 60 plays each. So that being said, we move on to Monday night where the Jacksonville Jaguars, still looking for their first victory on the season, take on the Buffalo Bills, who are undefeated. And I've got to say, Josh Allen, if it wouldn't be for all the new faces in the MVP category, you could make a legit argument that he deserves some recognition up there too. Where Trevor Lawrence, an individual who I've just thought the world of, I think he's an excellent quarterback, uh, has not proven that yet this year or for about the last 12 to 15 games that he's played. So that being said, I just think this Buffalo team is really on a roll. I think it's going to be tough for Jacksonville to come in and give a game and keep this one competitive. But what are we thinking about this game and what does the code have to say?
So we have a bet in this one. Um, with the spread, it's already moved a little bit. Open Buffalo 5.5. Currently Buffalo at -5. Total hasn't really moved at all. We don't really, or we made it slightly to the over. But nothing really worth noting. So if you're interested in what we have on our with the AI code there, you just take a look at batsbets.com, and that'll be posted. Even though we'll see exactly when this one actually gets bet, I might wait a little bit to actually bet this game. Um, we'll see where some of the money and the breakdowns are all at with that. But if you've been a viewer of this channel for a minute, you know I'm not a big Trevor Lawrence guy. I think Trevor Lawrence is arguably the most overrated because of expectation and everything else involved quarterback in the NFL. Not saying he's the worst by any stretch, but I think he's incredibly overrated. Um, and Josh Allen just continues to prove why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. No Stephon Diggs, no real problem for Buffalo. I mean, you look at what they've been able to do. They've gone back to back games putting up 30. Now against Miami, it was a little different just because of with the injury to Tua, their defense forcing some turnovers and scoring some points. They didn't really have to do as much. But in the first game, you saw what he did to the Arizona Cardinals when he brought him back. And I mean, whenever you're averaging 30 a game, you're definitely dangerous with that. And we'll see if the Jacksonville defense can do anything to stop them. Um, I mean, we'll see where the turnover battle ends up with this one, because Trevor Lawrence can be prone to make some poor decisions, and this Buffalo defense has proven that they can and will take advantage of that. So
Yep. No, I agree. I think Buffalo looks pretty good in this one and probably and will come out with a victory on at the end of this one. Last game that we have to talk about, also Monday night, getting a twofer on Monday night. The Washington Commanders go to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Washington coming off that thrilling victory in which they kicked 7 field goals to win the ball game. Excuse me. Don't think they ever punted in the game. I can't remember. Just a weird score, a normal weird score. You're used to seeing 21. You're not used to seeing 21 gotten by with 3-7 or 7 threes, I should say. The Bengals, on the other hand, coming off that disappointing loss to Kansas City, and how can they bounce back? Or how will they bounce back? I think the Bengals are going to respond favorably, even though I really like Jane Daniels is growing on me. The first time I ever watched the young man play at Arizona State, he was not good. I'm just gonna flat out say he was not good. I had only seen the one game, not his best game by any stretch of the imagination, but his time at LSU and his early days here in his NFL career starting to come around and grow on me, but just not enough. I think Joe Burrow and the boys take care of them and get their first victory of the year. But what does the code have to say on this one, and what do you think?
So with this one, we definitely have some opinions. We got multiple bets, both multiple units.
Oh, wow.
We'll see exactly what ends up making the card, uh, as there might be might look at some team totals potentially or different things like that. But as far as movements go, it's moved a little to the under, moved down about a point, and it's also moved from 8 down to 7.5. I'm not sure the total or the spread. I'm sorry, will move much more because if it hits 7, I think you'll see a ton more buyback on the Bengals. Um, so I'd assume it's probably going to sit in that 7.5 to 8 range. Um, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I thought Burrow looked better in week 2 than he did week 1. I thought it was coming out of his hands cleaner. Um, thought Jamar Chase again without T Higgins, and we'll see if he ends up playing in this one. But the teams have been really focusing on trying to take Jamar away, and I mean rightfully so. My biggest problem with the Bengals though is the loss of Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
I mean, their running game. Just looking at this real quick, and I'll pull it up. Like
Yeah,
just
well,
off the top of my head, it's just not what they need. Yeah, like through 2 games, they don't have a single rusher who's rushed for 100 yards yet. Like, I mean, they've only run for 144, so they're averaging 72 yards on the ground per game.
yeah. Yeah, they'll definitely have to improve that against the Commanders this weekend. There's no doubt about that. So, with that, that's our NFL preview of week 3 here at batsbets.com. Don't be afraid to head on over to the website and look for that. Look for our app. We've got an app that is on its way here, and we hope to be releasing it soon. So, with that, hope we see you on the website, and if not, hope we see you at the window. Take care. Bye now.
All right. Now, as far as college, is there any game you wanted to touch on real quick, or should I just pick one?
Oh, let's see. Trying to pull up college football right here.
And talk a little college football.
Yeah, let me. I've got it. Wrong button.
Well, the first ranked matchup is this Friday when Illinois goes to Nebraska.
Yeah, Illinois ranked.
Where do I have Illinois?
Bert, I don't even think I got Illinois in a top 50.
Have you watched Illinois yet? You probably
Kansas,
haven't
they
even
beat
watched it.
Kansas. They beat Kansas like 6-2. Thought it was a baseball score at first.
But yeah, no,
All right.
wait.
Michigan, USC,
Yeah, we can do Michigan USC.
LSU,
Let's do Michigan USC real quick.
LSU, UCLA. How the hell's Notre Dame still ranked? Yeah, why don't we do Illinois, Nebraska?
Just pick one. Just pick a game.
Oh,
Let's
you
go.
just want to do one?
No, we'll do a cut. We're doing the big games. We're not gonna get
Okay,
into.
well, yeah, let's head to the first big game, Illinois, Nebraska.
Yes.
All right. Are we live? Are we doing
Yeah, we've
anything?
been live the
Wait,
whole time.
I don't
We're
see
live.
live anymore. Am I missing something?
What do you mean? It should.
Oh, I guess so. Okay, I'm connected. We're live. Anyhow,
Yeah, you're there.
okay. Illinois, Nebraska. This weekend, Friday night ball game. Uh, these are two teams that I just don't have a lot of respect for. They're both ranked in the top 25. Illinois there with probably riding the coattails of that surprising win over Kansas. Um, and on the flip side, you've got a Nebraska team that just came off just putting a whooping on Colorado. Has a lot of national buzz around them again, and we'll see if it's justified this time around. I think with Coach Rule, I think it brings a little more credence to the table. Nebraska is going to have to stop that Illinois rush. That's for sure. If there's one thing that Coach Bielema does, he knows how to run the ball. He knows how to win that time of possession. And Nebraska wants to do a little bit of that as well, but they've got the Rayola boy slinging it for them. So I think they're a little more dynamic. This game is in Lincoln, and I think Nebraska pulls it out and covers the spread. But what are we thinking about that one? And what do you have? What does the code have say?
So this one didn't make our card. Um, like I mentioned earlier when we were talking some of the NFL, our college football slate has already been sent out to our clients. We've already bet all that stuff. Um, but and this one was not one of them. I personally made this line 7.5. It opened right around 8. I believe it has been bet. Yeah, it's currently sitting at 7.5, as well as it is at 42.5, down from 43.5. So a little bit of early money on the under, um, and just a little bit on Illinois. But again, it's right where I made the line, so we don't have any bets on this one. Um, I mean, I like Nebraska. I've got Nebraska just outside of my top 25 as I'm looking at my power rankings real quick. Illinois is 53rd in my
Yeah.
power ratings. So um, I think Nebraska wins this game. We'll see by how much, and if Nebraska can keep the momentum and the wins going. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule now. They
Easy
go
schedule.
Illinois, then they get Purdue, then they get Rutgers, then they get Indiana, which is sneakingly going to be a tough ball game.
Yeah.
Hoosiers are playing some good football in Indiana at the moment before they got to play, and their schedule gets a lot tougher when they got to go to Ohio State. Um, so I expect Nebraska to get a win here. Um, no bets for me, spread or total, but would at least it's a good ranked matchup to start our
Yeah.
weekend Friday night.
Yeah. I don't. It's a Friday night ball game, and you'll see two top 25 teams. Um, Two kind of surprising top 25 teams, in my opinion, and we'll see what happens there in the Big Ten. Next game that I want to talk about is USC versus Michigan. Trojans head to for their Big Ten opener, head to the Big House, and that is going to be an environment for them to step into, something they haven't necessarily experienced before. Not to say that they haven't experienced hostile crowds in the Pac-12, but just a little different atmosphere, just a little colder weather, and we'll see. I personally think USC is going to handle it very well, and going to come out with a victory. I don't know if they'll be able to cover the spread on this one, but I do suspect, well, I shouldn't say that. I think they will cover the spread on this one. I think USC is going to handle this one pretty much with ease. I am not a big Michigan uh, backer right now as far as as far as from a betting perspective. Um, I think they're going to be in a tailspin, and I don't see Michigan contending for a college football playoff or a Big Ten title. Uh, and they're just trying to run from the law and hope to skirt some NCAA violations. I think that can be the biggest win Michigan gets for their football program this year. But what does the code have to say, and what are you thinking about this one?
So you're seeing a lot of Michigan money. Um, Opening 6.5. It's been bet down to 5. Um,
I've always
that's
said
that
Michigan men are stupid, but that's me.
that's right where I'm at. I don't have a bet here. If I did, I would be taking the points with Michigan at home. Um,
Take your
biggest
money too.
biggest concern um, is I want to see if UFC is for real. Like
They
this
are.
be okay. Yeah, if you can't tell, he does not like Michigan.
Not at
um,
all. No
but
bias.
yeah, right. But no, with Michigan, we'll see. I just I like the fact that they've made the move at quarterback. Um, I expect them to run the ball, and for the first time this year, we're going to see if USC can truly stop that. They've really struggled with it in the past under Lincoln Riley. This defense, I think, flies around a lot more, and they look a lot better. But going to the Big House is one of, if not the toughest places to play in the entire country. Um, it's going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. I have not looked at a recent weather report for the game, but it's definitely one I'm looking forward to watching. So no bet. If I did, I would take the points with Michigan at home. Um, and I expect it to be a little bit closer, and we'll see if USC is for real. But that's something that I want to watch with my eyes and not with my pocket. So
Very true. Very true. And just so the SEC doesn't think that this is the Big Ten network here, our next game that we're going to take a look at is UCLA versus LSU. This is a game where it's at LSU, a big spread on this one. LSU has to cover. I'm looking at, I want to say 24 as we're speaking right now. And I just think this is an opportunity for solid SEC team just lay a whooping on a bottom division Big Ten team and try and send a statement. I think that's what's going to happen. But what do you have to say? And where's the code at on this one?
so I made this line 24, which is right where the sports books made it. So we don't have any play there. Um, and I'm with you. I think this is a game LSU is going to win this game handily. I don't think UCLA has the talent, um, which stems from lack of NIL money. I don't think that
Mhm.
they're going to be able to compete with LSU in this game. I think this one could get ugly. It's not a bet for us um, on that. Slightly lean towards the under, but currently, what am I looking at? 55. I'm looking at 55 and a half on my sheet is what I wrote down, but my phone is saying 56 and a half. So that means it's probably bet down and then bet
Right
right
down.
back up, which means there's probably conflicting reports with sharps. There's probably a sharp group out there that likes the under. And then there's probably one that when it moved, liked the over. Um, but for us, nothing. Um, but this is another one. I'll probably have this one on and I'll watch it just because I think LSU needs a solid outing here against a bottom Big Ten team, just coming off of having to come all the way back against South Carolina on the road. That's the only thing
Yeah.
I'm really worried about is potential letdown spot. That's one of the reasons why I'm not going to touch the spread because all of a sudden that's a great way to get backdoor covered and
Yep.
not trying to get backdoored.
Yep. Understandable. And the last game we want to talk about here on the college football slate, another another showdown between two top 25 teams, this time in the SEC, where you've got Tennessee traveling to Oklahoma. This is a very intriguing game. This Tennessee team, to me, looks for real. They've got a excellent rushing attack. Their new quarterback, I can't pronounce the last name, so I'm not going to try. Is has been very solid so far, and I'm just not a big believer in the Oklahoma defense or Oklahoma in general. Oklahoma's going to have to prove me wrong. I think Tennessee goes in and gets a W here. But what are you thinking about this game, and what does the spread or what does our code have to say about this?
So this is one of the games that there's a little conflicting between my personal power rankings and what our the AI says. Um, I made this right around 5 is where I personally have it. Um, the AI loves Tennessee. It loved Tennessee. Um,
Lot to
now
love.
I'm kind of with you. I think even though I think this is a better Oklahoma defense than some recent years, um, Nico is for real at the
Yes.
quarterback at Tennessee. He's good. Tennessee's offense is good, and we were talking about this game a little earlier. I feel like as opposed to previous Tennessee football teams, this team plays a lot more physical. Like they fly around both sides of the ball. They're explosive. This is a legit Tennessee football team. Um, and we'll have to. I mean, we'll see about Oklahoma. Um, it's
Oklahoma's got a
Jackson
lot to prove.
Arnold. Jackson Arnold is good in some areas, bad in others. I mean, his QBR is only 63rd in the country so far on the year. So not great by any means, especially when you're looking at the fact that who they've played Temple, Houston, and Tulane. Like now,
That's
again,
bad.
is the defense flying around and looking good for Oklahoma because they've played Temple, Houston, and Tulane, or are they actually a little bit better? I guess we're gonna find out because if they aren't any better, Tennessee might put this game over by themselves. Not quite. They
Yeah.
ain't gonna put 60 on them, but they're gonna put up some points. Um, but yeah, definitely looking forward to this one.
Yeah. No, I think this will be a very much a welcome to the SEC type game, and I think Tennessee can deliver that type of beating that I think is going to happen here to this Oklahoma team. But we'll find out on Saturday. With that, that's our college football preview, and we will see you at the window.
You know, yeah, all bets are already sent out for college football once again, so make sure to go check out thatspecs.com for that. Take a look at what our AI code and myself have to are thinking about college football. Also, check out the NFL, which has already paid for itself um, through 2 weeks. It paid for itself week one, actually. So that's definitely a positive with a full week of NFL games about to take place. And then it's a huge week of soccer. And
Yep.
I would, if I have to tip my hat to anything, we're pretty good when it comes to betting soccer, especially over in Europe. So definitely take a look at that as well.
All right. So with that, we'll see you folks on the other side. Take care. Bye now.